Hey guys, so I'm back and I'm here to do a review for the brand spanking new Kat Von D Shade and Light Contour Palette that made its debut from Kat Von D. It's new in her lineup and it's joining the ranks of all the other contour palettes and contour powders that are kind of flooding the market now. Since we're so obsessed with contouring and highlighting these days, that it made sense that Kat Von D would make her own little debut in the market. So she debuted her palette. It's a Shade and Light palette, and this palette comes with 6 shades included, where there are 3 highlighting shades and 3 contouring shades, and she's calling them light and shade colors, which is kind of different. It's kind of her spin on it, which I thought was a nice little tweak on the typical highlight contour concept. And you will notice that the 3 highlight shades on top are smaller than the 3 contour shades on the bottom. Now this is not unique. There are different palettes that do have smaller highlight shades versus contour shades, which makes sense because you're going to use more of the contour shades than you would the highlight shades. So I think having different sizes actually benefits us in the long run. You get more product from the contour palettes and the contour powders that you're actually going to use more of. So I thought the actual layout was nifty for this. So price-wise, this is $46, and I know what you're thinking already. This is very similar to the Anastasia Beverly Hills contour kit with the 6 shades, 3 highlights, 3 contours. So it's a similar concept, and the Anastasia Beverly Hills contour kit is $40, so it's cheaper. The highlight and the contour shades are the same size, and they're 0.11 ounce each, while the Shade and Light palette from Kat Von D, the contour shades are 0.16 ounces each, and then the highlight shades are 0.08 ounces each. So you're getting more product for the contours, but you're getting less for the highlight. And I think all in all, they almost equate to the same amount of product, with the Anastasia Beverly Hills being a touch cheaper. But all in all, I think the price point on the Shade and Light palette falls in line with other contour kits on the market. It's in that mid-40s range, which isn't quite that expensive. And I think overall it's a good price point. And if you're getting 6 shades, it's actually not bad. And when you compare it to duos on the market like the NARS Contour Duo, which I absolutely love, this is $42 just for 2 shades. And even the Makeup Forever Sculpting Kit, which I absolutely adore, you are spending $40 on the duos. So $46 for this palette I think is a good price point for 6 shades, and it's a good value for your money. So let's just quickly look at the packaging, and the packaging is in the new palette design for Kat Von D. If you have her recent launches for eyeshadow palettes, the Interstellar palette, the Chrysalis or Monarch eyeshadow palettes, you'll remember this design is reminiscent of this. It's just hard cardboard that is held together with a magnet, just a flap with a magnet. It's not the most secure packaging. I prefer a snap shut clasp, so I know that it won't inadvertently open if I put it in luggage or in my bag or something. So if you're traveling with this, just be mindful of that. You may want to put something around it to secure it, or just put it somewhere where it won't jiggle around and probably open and get smashed. So just be careful with that. It's still a very sturdy, secure packaging. It's just the clasp is not, the magnet isn't very strong, so it's not going to hold securely. On the front of the packaging, you have the Shade and Light palette name, which is kind of an embossed raised shape. So you'll feel the texture as you run your finger over it, which feels kind of nice. And you have the Kat Von D logo. On the back, you'll have the name of the highlight and contour shades, along with, product information, size, manufacturing location, etc. And inside the palette, you'll see a full-size mirror in the lid, but the lid actually just flaps around. It's a typical cardboard packaging. It doesn't have a hinge that holds it up, so you can't necessarily use this sitting on your desk to apply makeup, but you can hold it in your hand and apply makeup because it is a decent-sized mirror. And then inside the palette, you'll see the 3 highlight shades at the top laid out. Again, they're smaller than the contour shades, and the contour shades are on the bottom. And at first glance, you might think they're arranged by lightest to deepest, but not really. They're more arranged by the tone. So the tone of the colors are a little bit different. And depending on your skin tone, you can probably just use each of the duos independently for your own look, or you can mix and match. There are no rules to this. You can do whatever you want to make it work for your skin tone. One key thing that I forgot to mention is that these shades are all matte shades. So there are no shimmer shades, there are no frost shades, there is no glitter in these shades. They're all matte, but they're not a flat like chalkboard matte. They're more of a natural matte finish. So they still won't reflect light, but they won't look dead and chalky on your skin. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you the shades up close, and we'll just go through the shade names and descriptions, and then we'll jump into the swatches. So we'll start out with the highlight shades, and the first shade up is Lucid, which is described as a pinkish nude. Then we have the shade Lyric, which is described as a yellow beige. Last in the highlights, we have Levitation, which is described as a soft peach. Moving on to the shade colors, and these are the contour shades. The first up is Somber, which is a true taupe. Next, we have Shadow Play, that center color, which is a soft brown. And then we have the deepest shade, which is Subconscious, which is a deep brown. So I'm going to go ahead and swatch these shades for you now on my arm. What I'm going to do is swatch them with a brush, but I'm going to swatch them heavily with an eyeshadow brush so you can see the color payoff, the intensity, and you can see the different shade nuances as they show up on my skin, but you wouldn't typically use them that heavily on your skin. So for these swatches, I'm going to be swatching over a foundation, just a very light coat of foundation on my skin, because I wouldn't apply a contour or a highlight shade without some kind of base underneath, whether it be a tinted moisturizer, foundation, or even a moisturizer. Starting out with the first light shade or highlight shade, this is the shade Lucid, which is described as a pinkish nude. On my skin tone, it comes off more of just a light ivory shade. Next up in the light shades, we have the shade Lyric, which is described as a yellow beige. And this color is definitely a yellowed beige, but it's a very light tone. It's not a strong or heavy yellow undertone, but you definitely do see that warm yellow tone to it. And then the third light shade is Levitation, which is described as a soft peach. This color again is a very light shade. It does have more peachy undertone. And if you take a look at the three light shades, this one definitely has more pink to it as described. This one has yellow, and this one is more peach. Now you can see the difference in the undertone when it's swatched heavily and you can look directly at it. But on my skin tone, they all come off as just a light beige shade, and these colors are just definitely too light on my skin tone. They come off ashy and they do give that flashback that's too intense on darker skin tone. Next we have the shade powders. First up is Somber, which is described as a true taupe. And for this one, you can see that there is a strong gray undertone to this. It can come off a little bit too ashy on my skin tone because the gray undertone is a little bit too light, so it does show up as an ashen color. Then we have the shade Shadow Play, which is described as a soft brown. This one is definitely what it says. It is a soft brown. It almost blends into my skin, so it won't give me too much color as far as a contour shade goes, but it can be used to mix with other colors to probably offset the ashiness of maybe the light shades or even this somber shade. And then last up we have the shade Subconscious, which is described as a deep brown. Now this one is definitely a deeper brown, and it still has that gray undertone to it, so it's good to use as a shade-in color or a contour shade. And on my skin tone, that one actually shows up, so that one would be the go-to contour shade for me, even though if I apply it too intensely it can be a little bit too dark. So I definitely have to mix it with the other two shades to try to get some medium ground with this darker color. So there are the three shade powders, and as you can see on my deeper skin tone, which I describe myself as a deep tan. The middle shade is almost my complexion. It would give me a very subtle contour, very subtle shading, and if I mix it with the darker shade, the subconscious, it would give me a darker contour. So I think I can use these two together. This shade here, the somber shade, is a little bit too ashy, a little bit too gray. Again, I can probably mix it to get a deeper shade, but if I use it on its own, it's definitely gonna be too ashen on my skin. So here are the 6 colors from the Shade and Light palette. So again, there are 3 light shades which are meant to do highlighting and accenting on the face. Then you have the 3 shade colors that are meant to do contouring and more shadowing effects on the face. So what I'm going to do now is go into a demonstration of me using the palette, actually applying it as I would any contour or highlight palette, and showing you how the colors work on my skin tone. And for reference, I'm an NC45, or what you would consider a golden tan in most foundation shades. I would consider myself a medium deep skin tone. So I'm going to show you how these colors show up on my skin in practice. I'm going to start out by contouring the hollows of my cheeks, and I'm going to use the shade Somber, which is the true taupe shade. So it's that taupey shade with that gray undertone, and I'm going to just apply that to the hollows of my cheeks and blend it in, and I'm going to go back and pick up the color and build up the intensity. I don't want to apply too much color at once. I'm just going to lightly build up the intensity as I see fit. Then I'm also going to take 2 of the colors, Subconscious and Shadow Play, mix them together to get kind of a bronzy shade, because they are brown shades. They're more warm tone to neutral, so I can use these and bronze up my skin. So I'm going to apply that to my temples and forehead area just to bring some color to my hairline, darken up that area, add some shadow where shadows would naturally fall. And then the biggest test is to use these to contour my nose. So I'm going to start out by slimming out the bridge of my nose. So I'm contouring at the sides of my nose, so I give a shadow effect, a slimming effect to my nose. And then I'm also going to bring that up to my eyebrow, kind of where my eye socket meets the bridge of my nose, to create a shadow there. I'm also going to carve out where my nostrils are to kind of make them smaller and not as rounded. This taupey shade is a little bit too gray for me, and it's showing up a bit too gray on my skin tone. So I'm going to have to add a bit of the other 2 shades just to mix them and match them to get a warmer color, because the gray shade looks completely gray on my skin. It's given that ashy cast on my skin. So I'm gonna have to mix the colors so it doesn't quite show up like a ashy gray tone on my nose. So I'm applying that, blending it in as best as I can. I'm still leaving it quite intense so you can see it. It can pick up on camera so you can see the color. Then I'm going in with the highlight. I'm picking up the Levitation shade, which is the soft peach, which is the deepest color that I found in the palette. The yellow shade and the lucid shade. Lyric and lucid were just too light. I'm going in with the deeper shade, which is Levitation. I'm going to apply that down the bridge of my nose slightly just to add a highlight, bring a highlight to the center of my nose. And I'm also going to apply this under my eyes. Now, I don't know if you can see, but by the look on my face, it's like, no, this is too light. As much as I want it to work, it's not gonna work. And I thought I could mix it with one of the contour shades, but the gray tone in Somber is just too gray to mix with it. It's gonna look very ashy on my skin. The closest shade I could kind of mix it with would be Shadow Play, but Shadow Play is still a little bit too ashy to do a highlight with. So I had to mix it with face powder and blend it out so it didn't look so intense on my skin. And that's what I found with the highlight shades. They were a little bit too stark against my skin tone. All in all, once I blended everything in and I applied my powder in all the areas I needed to apply it and blend it and look at a distance, look up close, and see where I needed to blend. It all came together pretty nicely. What I did find is that the highlight shades in this palette are just far too light, far too pigmented to actually use as highlight shades on my deeper skin tone. So darker than me, my skin tone and deeper are gonna have trouble using these highlight shades, and you can't really mix it with the contour shades to get a darker color because of the undertones of the deeper shades. They're still gonna look too ashy on your skin. They're gonna look ashen. They're gonna give a gray cast that's gonna make you look like you were just cremated, which sounds terrible, but it's true. The highlight shades are a no-go for my skin tone. You may be able to get them to work if you mix them with other powders, but on their own, they won't work, especially since they are decently pigmented, that they're not a sheer wash. They're not just gonna give you a subtle highlight. These are almost too intense to use as highlight shades. I think these would work on medium skin tones. Light to medium skin tones. Pale skin will not really get much use out of these either because they're a little bit too deep for the palest of skins, and they're too light for medium deep skin tones and beyond. The contour shades actually worked out pretty well for me, except that I couldn't use the somber shade everywhere. I had to mix the other shades, which is good that I have the other shades to use, and that's the point of having a kit. You can mix and substitute and create your own shades from the palette. I think these will show up on medium deep skin tone, maybe even a little bit deeper than me. Maybe I'd go even NC50, maybe NW45, and I want to push it to NW45, but that may be a little bit too much. Swatch these, see if they show up. The deepest shade is probably your best bet, but if the deepest shade is the only one that matches you, the highlight shades won't go well with your skin tone, so it's like skip this palette if that's the only shade that matches you. While I like the contour shades, the highlight shades don't work for me, and I don't see the value in this palette when I have other ones to choose from on the market. So it's not the best palette for me. It's tricky when you try to design a universal palette for the extensive range of skin tones on the market. So obviously this is not gonna fit the extreme ends of the spectrum, and I don't expect it to, but it should fit the medium range, which I think the majority of medium toned skin will get good use out of this palette. But for me, I'm losing out on the highlight shades, so that's one drawback. The contour shades actually work pretty well, and they did do true contour shades with the gray undertones, and I think the contour shades really work well, and I hope she ends up selling these individually because I think they're actually good contour powders. The pros of these, I like how lightweight and blendable they are. They are buildable, so they're not intense color right away. You can build up the color, which is what you want. You don't want intense pigmentation from contour and face powders because you want to be able to control the intensity. So I like that they're buildable, they're soft, they're blendable. I like that they're true contour shades, and I like the sizes. I think it's a good price point. The drawbacks or the cons, the highlight shades don't work well on deeper skin tones, and I think they're just too pigmented to really work as highlight shades if you just want a subtle effect, because they're very intense, especially on deeper skin tones. So all in all, I think the palette is decent. It's a good addition to the market. I think it's a decent contour palette, especially if you're light to medium skin tone. Tan and medium deep skin tone, you will like the contour shades a lot. They're very nice shades. The highlight shades may be a little bit more tricky. You might have to blend them with powders in your collection to make them work for you. I think Kat Von D did a good job with her debut on the contour highlight market. I think it's a decent contour palette. And I know you're going to ask me, in comparison with the Anastasia Beverly Hills palette, which one would I choose? If you're deeper skin tone, I would say go with the Anastasia Beverly Hills palette, not the original. They have a medium tan or a tan deep palette now as an option. Get that one, or go on the Anastasia Beverly Hills website and select your own shades to match your skin tone if you are a deeper skin tone. Personally, I prefer the shades from Anastasia Beverly Hills. These are some of the single shades that you can purchase. Again, you can build your palette for $40. I prefer these because I could pick the shades that I thought were more suitable for my skin tone. Meanwhile, this one is more of a universal selection. It's meant to cover a range of skin tones, so it won't match you perfectly, but I think it's a good starter palette. And the Kat Von D ones are more gray toned, more true contour shades. So if you're looking for true contour shades, these are better for you, but the gray tones are a little bit harder to get to work, especially if you're not that comfortable with makeup. A beginner would benefit from using more of a warm toned or lean-in warm toned shade than a true contour shade, because these are a little bit more difficult. They can look a little bit stark on your skin. So all in all, good palette, good find, blendable shades, nice shades. Great for light to medium skin tones. Deeper skin tones, be mindful that the highlight shades won't be your friend. And for the contour shades, I think they're great shades. Just make sure that they're actually workable on your skin tone before you invest $46 when you could just go and build your own contour palette with suitable shades. I would give it a B, maybe a B- grade for the overall palette, because I think it will work well on the medium range of skin tones, lighter skin tones, but for deeper skin tones, we have to be mindful of it. It's a nice palette. The powders actually are very blendable and apply really well, and they're smooth and they're not flat matte. They're more of a natural matte, which is better than a flat matte that's just gonna look chalky on your skin. So I give it a B-, I would say. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this review. The swatches were helpful for you. The demonstration helped you out in deciding whether or not you wanted to check this palette out. And until my next video, which will be soon, I will talk to you. Bye!